All right, guys, welcome to the Will to Fight podcast. Ignore the odds. Don't pay attention to what the odds say. The odds that are against you don't deserve your attention. That's one of the main points that Jack brings up in this episode that he quoted using to his advantage, passing buds as a SEAL, becoming an author, and his journey of success along the way is to ignore the odds. I'm pumped for you guys to listen to this episode. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about adversity, being veterans, and we're going to get into some pretty cool stuff. And one of the things we're going to get into is gear. And I think that's one of the things that starkly contrasts Jack from everybody else in the industry. I love reading his stuff, and if you get a chance, and if you haven't already, you have to read Terminal List, because as you guys know, what I carry on a daily basis is so important to me, and there's a chapter in there that he uses the Dynamis Alliance Razorback, which is one of the blades that I designed. It's a double-edged blade that we created to conceal and to use in combat. I always say combat to concealed because I want guys to be able to be as effective as possible, to have what they're using on their kit, to be able to take that same blade, put it in a concealable in the waistband holster, and then use it on a pair of board shorts when they're hanging out in town. I want you to have that same feel and that translation for reality, to be able to transition from environment to environment. I named it the Razorback, not only because it has serrations on the backside, but Adam Brown was a friend, he was a brother, he was a huge inspiration to me, and because of the red and black handle and the shape of it, and calling it the Razorback was because he was a huge Razorbacks fan from Arkansas. I became a Razorback fan when he died. I said that was one of the things that I would take up as my team, my college football team, and we created one of the baddest concealable blades on the market. It's one of our best sellers, and it's at crusheverything.com. Go check out other options, our other blades. But essentially, this is about precision and no wasted material. We have an ambidextrous in the waistband sheath with a zero clip that you can tuck your business shirt in, your t-shirt in, or you can just wear it on a pair of board shorts because it does not need a belt. So it's extremely adaptable to what you're doing, and we have the ability to carry it in a chest rig or a carrier or armor if need be. Obviously, these tools are something that I take very seriously. I'm big into making sure people have the tools and the training that they need to protect themselves on a daily basis, including the right mindset and awareness. So this is a huge part of that. And again, there's a pretty cool story in the middle of this episode that talks about the Razorback and some of the fun facts that I didn't know about that Jack enlightened me on. So I'm excited for you guys to listen to it. This episode is brought to you by Redcon One. As you guys know, I drink multiple shakes every single day. And one of the quick combos that I like to use is the Ration, which is a whey protein blend, the vanilla flavor with the Total War Orange Crush. It tastes like a creamsicle. It gives me a little pick-me-up, and it gives me a little pre-workout protein in my system so that when I'm burning that, I have the ability to have a good, efficient fuel system as I'm going through a strenuous workout. A couple of different options here. I want to explain something real quick because guys were asking me. There's MRE and there's MRE Light. So the meal replacement, MREs obviously are something we used overseas when we had to ration our food or go on a long trip. We always had MREs, meals ready to eat. So this is meal replacement, and the meal replacement light has less carbs, it has less fat, it has some of the things that are reduced because it's more of a light version of that meal replacement, but it's a good snack throughout the day, especially if you're trying to cut weight. And then also after your workout, the actual MRE, that's what you would use if you're really trying to refuel your body with that meal replacement. So banana nut bread, that's one of the things I have on here, and I believe this is the blueberry cobbler, which is delicious as well. A lot of different flavors these guys have. The other stack that I like to do is the isotope vanilla with the orange crush. Still tastes like a creamsicle, but I always like to do that protein and pre-workout. It's a really, really good combo. Remember, redcon1.com. Use the code DOM, D-O-M. You guys can save 20% on your entire purchase and anything that you check out on the site. So go check it out. These guys have been awesome. One of the best supplement companies out there, and nutrition is key. Keep your body fueled up. All right, guys, I am pumped to start this episode of the Will to Fight podcast. Here we go. We are all going to have to fight. I don't care if it's mentally, physically, or spiritually. We are all going to have to fight for something in our lives. My goal is to help you forge your will to fight to become the best that you can possibly be for yourself, your family, and everybody else around you. I'm Dom Raso. Welcome to the Will to Fight podcast. All right. First and foremost, with this guest that I have on today, I just want to say leadership, because this is someone that's inspired me, shown me different things about in the military, outside the military, has motivated me, encourages me, and he does that across the board with so many different people that I know. He's a retired Navy SEAL with 20 years under his belt with several deployments, both as an enlisted and as an officer, all the way from being on a sniper team to a task unit commander. And he transitioned out of the military. He jumped headfirst into writing as an author with multiple challenges weighing him down, trying to figure out what he was going to do. He's already wrote several epic thrillers, The Terminal List, The True Believer, and the new one that's coming out, Savage Son. Epic novels. And at the end of the day, these thrillers are something that I like to call real fiction, reality-based fiction. I don't know if that's a term that exists already, but I want to welcome Jack Carr to the Will to Fight podcast. What's up, brother? Absolutely. It's awesome to have you on here. And it's inevitable that we were going to link up. And we always, even just talking about the fact that, this is what it takes sometimes to get us together, and media and information and timing. It's just, it's awesome what you're doing. And I think guys are going to get a lot out of this, not only from the standpoint of what you've been up to, but also your journey that you've been on. So really pumped to have you here.
Well, appreciate it. Yeah. And it's great that there are so many people that we know that have podcasts, because it's an excuse to catch up with them. And so I have a great time just jumping on, and it's like, we're having this conversation, but there's a third person in this conversation too. And that's the person listening in their car to and from work or wherever they listen to these things. That's why podcasts are so powerful, I think, because it's not, it's someone's a part of that conversation. So every time I listen to a podcast, I feel like I'm there. And but so do also 6 million other people if it's a podcast with a reach like that. So I think that's why they're so powerful, and it's a conversation that anybody can join in on.
No, it really is, man. It really is a valuable tool. And I know you personally, so watching your journey unfold, like I said, it's been an inspiration to watch you transition, dive headfirst into this, as a leader in this industry. And it's a lot of unknown when you get out of the military. You're like, what am I going to do? And I know how much you've been busting your ass. So what's one of the things that's fired you up and kept you passionate throughout this journey post-military?
I guess there's a couple things. First one is family. Finding that next mission in life, finding that purpose, but also no matter what that was going to be, no matter what mission that was going to be, what fires me up is trying to be a success, trying to do the best I can at whatever it was I was going to do. In this case, it's writing, it's building a foundation of readers that are going to get the next book. But more than that, it's being able to spend time with family and raise these 3 kids that spent a lot of time without me in the military. So, both those things really fire me up. Learning new things as far along this journey, and that's why doing this podcast, learning what social media is, learning what's a tweet and how's that different from a friend and a like. What are these things? What's a story? Oh no, I'm not ready to go there yet. What is that? So all those things are fascinating to me because it's a whole new world. And for me anyway, because in the military, as you know, we more than shied away from those things because no good could have come of it for our generation. So having to jump in, being a little late to the game was interesting to say the least. And I continue to learn, continue to adapt, continue to evolve, and want to use these tools in a positive way as I build this foundation moving forward. But what's interesting about that also is that now for this next generation coming in, the ones that don't have a social media presence are going to be the outliers. So when you think of things and I'm thinking in terms of fiction these days as I move forward, but the person that doesn't have that background almost from birth of a social media type of presence, those are the outliers, and those are the ones that are now going to pop if they're doing something in kind of the blacker side of intelligence operations or special operations. So it's an interesting dilemma for them to have to grapple with moving forward.
Yeah, we've been saying that for years too. I mean, how many schools have we been to on certain different topics? I won't mention any specifically, but at the end of the day, I remember them saying that years ago. If you don't have a Facebook now, you're weird. Like
Right.
you're not normal if you don't have a Facebook. So now the opposite is happening where guys
Yep.
are actually getting tracked if they don't have something. So that's an
Exactly.
interesting topic. I'm sure maybe we'll see something in a book somewhere about
Oh
that.
yeah,
I
no,
don't know.
absolutely. And then you throw a little facial recognition on top of all that, and some AI in there as well. And it's a really interesting kind of problem set to deal with as people move forward. But I'm very happy to be dealing with it in the sense that I'll be writing about it in a fictional realm rather than living it out. It was a good 20-year run in the military, but I'm happy to be out and taking care of the family now.
That's awesome. And what do you think about that term reality-based fiction? I mean,
I,
everything we do is connected to reality. So when I read what you put out, it's like I don't know another term other than heartwarming. It's like, yes, I get this because it's more connected than reading somebody that hasn't necessarily been there or done that. Not taking anything away from some really good stuff that's out there, but I just connect with it in a different way. And it could be maybe because I have the same background. I don't know, but it just hits me different.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, there's a term, and it's mostly connected with Brad Thor these days, and it's called faction. But I think
Action. Okay.
somebody actually coined it in the '70s, and I forget who it was. I need to go back and look that up. But it's been around for a little bit. But most recently, it's been attached to Brad Thor. But yeah, faction. So faction. Factually based fiction. I guess. And so I
Interesting.
like to do that in my writing and in just my posts on Instagram or whatever else, and just be thoughtful about how I kind of explain different events that are either mentioned in the novels or have impacted me growing up or throughout my time in the military and before and after as well. So yeah, faction's a term that's been out there, but I like yours. I have not heard yours yet. So trademark, copyright, whatever that is.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard it, man. I'm just saying, it definitely connects with that reality-based training, that reality-based, connection to what we're doing here every day. It's hard to live that lifestyle or be in the career that we're in and then not think about reality with everything that we do because it's so important. It's real to us. So why waste any reps in something that's going to be not necessarily connected to where we're going or what the outcome's going to be.
Oh yeah, so I always do that. It's and I don't know how crazy I drive my wife, kind of like red selling almost every move or everything that we do. And then when she kind of steps off the path a little bit, I go, I try to, not maybe sometimes not say anything, sometimes mention it in a way that Anyway, I kind of think
It's
about
really
things from the
hard.
enemy's perspective all the
It's
time.
really hard. It's really hard to know if we're being super overwhelming to other people because it's kind of ingrained into us. I do the same thing with my wife. I don't know if she's really like, is she like please enough or is she like, oh, this is very useful? Sometimes that gauge is hard to read.
I think I get more of the eye roll, whether I see it or not. Kind of the internal eye roll. I know I get it from our daughter, who's at that age where eye rolling is kind of like the main facial expression. But yeah, no, I tend to red sell almost everything that I do. I do it in the novels. I'm constantly aggressively solving problems on the written page, kind of like I used to
So
do in the
cool.
battlefield or in training. And I think of every move that we make here just throughout the day, really from the enemy's perspective. And I don't think it's a paranoia type thing. And I kind of explore this a little bit in book 3 in Savage Son, but it's that heightened sense of awareness and just, hey, if I'm going to take a risk and do something, just realize that you are taking that risk and that the enemy could exploit it in a way that is detrimental to us and our family and our being able to take a breath. So I do think about things like that kind of all the time. It's just, I did before the military. It wasn't like the military made me that way. I think I was just like that from birth.
Yeah, that's the way I was growing up too. And I always call it, you're not being paranoid, you're prepared. And what happens is we understand the way the brain processes information. Anything reality based that's a threat or that could be a problem or is difficult, the brain tends to want to reject it. So typically when we start talking about a reality situation like, hey, you need to carry a firearm to be safe and protect your family, somebody that hasn't accepted that reality yet, they want to reject that thought. So they don't necessarily want to go down that road. And sometimes it can be hard to kind of convey and communicate that. But I think that the red selling is exactly what you said it is. It's a heightened sense of awareness. It's a reverse engineering. I call it reverse engineering, how we're looking at either going to a target or having to deal with a threat, because essentially that's what we're doing. We're reverse engineering what they're going to do trying to think of every move in their place, but that just gives us more data and intel in preparation. So I totally get what you're saying. And I think even for the viewers or listeners that they might not understand, what is red cell? I'm sure it's the majority of people know, but it's kind of when we're reverse engineering and analyzing what could happen to us by probing our own securities or processes in their shoes in every step of the way, or every detail, I should say.
Oh yeah, it's certainly easier not to accept a reality, or a reality that hey, and you might go through life and just stumble through life and never have anything bad happen to you. That's a possibility. As far as intense, close physical violence, you might make it through. I mean, bad things will happen to you. I mean, you'll face adversity in one way, shape, or form, regardless. But that intense physical violence, yeah, you might stumble through life and never have to deal with it. But then again, you might not. So people like us want to be prepared. So it is definitely, I can see how some people will be like, well, why do I need to carry a gun? Why do I need to carry a knife? Why do I need to train? I've never been in a fight. I just maybe avoid it, I guess, or that doesn't happen around here, or whatever they tell themselves. But it's very easy to do that unless you're kind of just either born with it, or take a breath and look at most of human history and realize that you're here because you had a relative at some point along the line that was good at providing for the family and at defending the tribe. If you didn't, your family line would not have continued. So some of us, I think, is just kind of closer to the surface than others. Everybody's got it in there. Otherwise they wouldn't be alive on this planet today. But for some of us, it's just a little closer to the forefront.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, typically when you have somebody in your family, good leadership, parenting, fathers, exposing you to that reality or potential reality, you realize that there is a connection that, oh, I need to take this seriously. And yeah, some people get away, unscathed, but usually when it does happen to people that aren't prepared, are like, I never thought that could happen, or I didn't think that could be me. And it's why we want to grab people by the shoulders and be like, please take this seriously, because it could be you. And there's small things that you can do. And sometimes it is literally just shifting your mindset that can save you from a scenario that could be life threatening.
Oh, sure. I mean, we live in probably the safest time in all of human history to be alive and walk through our city streets and our towns and the backwoods or wherever we're going. But that can change in an instant, and it will
100%.
at some point. Whether it's an hour from now, or 10 years from now, or 100 years from now, like it will happen, and best be prepared.
So speaking of being prepared, this translates to my next question perfectly. Is me in training. I'm training every single day. I was in the gym this morning working nonviolent postures, working combatives.
Oh, I saw you on Instagram. Yeah.
That's how we keep up with each other.
That's right.
You weren't here training. That was the goal. I wanted to have you in the building doing that with you today.
Man, but, I need it.
That's the next question is, what are you doing now to keep up with your training, firearms, hands? What are you doing?
Right. So I'm definitely not at the same level that I was a couple of years ago. That's for sure. That pendulum has kind of swung over towards, first writing. And then what I didn't realize is that writing is starting a small business, and everything you would need to do in a startup, you need to do as an author, as a writer. So everything from the marketing and the branding and the co-branding and the advertising and everything else that goes along with, if you're going to start a coffee shop, or if you're going to start a bookstore, whatever it is, you have to do those also as an author. And that takes a lot of time. And I didn't really think about that at all until maybe a few months before the first book came out. I started thinking about it. I got a social media account. I didn't post any pictures of myself, just started kind of seeing what else was out there and what was going on, and figuring out these differences between tweets and likes and all the rest of that sort of thing. But the pendulum has definitely swung over the last year since the publication of the first novel towards building this foundation and adapting to this new environment that I find myself operating in. Eventually it will have to swing back a little bit, and I'll have to get back in that gym, because I was so good for that first year out here in Park City. We showed up in Park City. So we moved from Coronado, California, and the SEAL teams are either in San Diego or Virginia Beach for the most part, for those listening. And we left San Diego, made a clean break with the military, and showed up in this mountain town of Park City. And we got it out of the car at the grocery store the first day we were here, and we looked around and we're like, oh my goodness, look how in shape all these people were. We thought we were in pretty good shape coming from San Diego, but people here, it's next level. I mean, trail running and mountain biking and backcountry skiing,
high on the list.
Preparing for that. I mean, it draws people that want to kind of enjoy this outdoor lifestyle, and not just enjoy it, but crush it. So for the first year, I was pretty good. We have this group of guys here in Park City that are just about optimizing human performance at all levels. And a couple of them are involved in companies that actually focus on that. But whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, just kind of making the most out of life and maximizing each and every second you have on this earth. And part of that is an insane start to the day with these workouts that were, oh man, they were awesome. So when you come out to visit, we'll go down and do that. But it was a combination of like trail running, or in the winter, it's backcountry skiing, snowshoeing, but thrown in with like, I don't know, 10, I don't know, 10, but like 3 or 4 of the craziest CrossFit workouts you can think of, like intermixed with that backcountry skiing, snowshoeing, trail running.
Awesome.
But these guys are awesome. Yeah, they're amazing, amazing guys. And I will get back in there with them. But for the last, I guess, year now, I've been spending more time hiking with the kids, mountain biking with the kids, skiing with the kids, skiing with my wife when the kids were in school, that sort of thing. So staying active really just by getting out on the trails, doing that sort of thing. So eventually this is one thing I need to work on big time, is getting more disciplined with my time and my schedule, and learning how to say no to things, because I'm so well, one, I just want to say yes to everyone and everything.
Yep.
But the other side of that is when you do that, that's about all you do is run around kind of following up on these commitments that you've made to everyone else. So what I need to do is really get a lot more disciplined with my day, have a get up time, workout time, move into getting the kids to school, write for a couple hours, then do my posts, then do my emails, and just have it much more structured. And I'm not quite there yet, because I'm still figuring out this next chapter in life. At first it was one book, then it was editing one book, writing a second, then it was promoting one book, editing a second, writing a third. Now it's promoting 2, editing a third, writing a fourth. So there's just more balls you got to kind of keep in the air with those specific projects that are the main focus. But it's all those supporting elements that you need to do, from the postings and the brandings and the co-brandings and the travel and the research and everything else that's involved in building that foundation, building a business that really take a lot of time. So going forward, it's I'll have to, over the next year, get a lot more disciplined in my approach to this.
Yeah, I mean, just listening to you, I mean, first of all, I'm absolutely amazed at how much you've already done. Seriously, from the standpoint of understanding small business, and obviously, I'm laughing at a lot of the things that you're saying because I've had to go through some of the same crucibles myself. I mean, I am still learning every day. I always am a student. I feel like I'm just getting started, but there's some of the things that you just can't figure it out until you do it yourself. So to hear you say that on the same note is refreshing, but it's also, I know exactly where you're at with things because I've had that same evolution. And I was out there post-military being like, yes, yes, yes. And I wanted to do it all, convinced myself that I could. And I did a lot, but eventually the wave all of a sudden kind of caught me where I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I'm starting to not fulfill the things that I said I was going to do. And I can hear it in your voice. You know how important when you say yes to something that you follow through with what you say you're going to do. And that's become critical to me at this point. And that's what I'm just forging my day just to follow through with what I say I'm going to do and make sure that I stick with it. Down from a customer that orders something on the website all the way to a commitment to my family, I'm making sure that each one of these things gets done appropriately. So I can definitely appreciate that. The routine aspect is another thing what I wanted to hit on because I was along the same lines of just flex, try to make it happen and work. And eventually what I realized is that I spent the whole career not having a routine. The reason that worked so well is because we have this whole support structure around us that's set up for that. It's set up to adapt on the fly because you've got everybody that's going to catch the ball if you drop it. And when you're by yourself running a small business, there's not too many people looking to catch the ball. It's either my wife or the couple of people that are on my team. And being much more aware of that, what I realized is having that specific routine has really, really helped me in creating more efficiencies with my time. That way, every second is of best use and most effective. So just confirming what you were saying, because I absolutely agree that it will help you, but there's kind of like this chaos mode as well that you need to be in order to push that and sacrifice ahead. So
Right. Like there's the opportunity in that chaos, just like on the battlefield. And the way I look at it now is in these early stages of a startup, I have to be able to adapt quickly to emerging opportunities. Now, maybe you get to a stage where you don't need to do that. Let's say you're a a Tom Clancy, you're a John Grisham, you're a Stephen King. Like, it doesn't really matter if you do your post that day or not. You're going to sell a certain number of books. You have that base that's already been built up. But if you're just starting, I think that you need to be very, very adaptable, and you have to take advantage of these emerging opportunities instead of like, oh, no, I'm in this. This is not my time to do that. This is my 2 hours to return email. I will get to that tomorrow, I think, during this time. Well, you know what? Might be a fleeting opportunity. So at this early stage, and that's why people, I think, have so much fun in startups. And once they get to these certain levels, when you read these books by guys, Steve Jobs and all this, like, they get to this certain level where it's all corporate and there's HR and there's they've managed this huge monster. They think back to those days in the garage and they think, oh, man, I was so happy. We had no money whatsoever. We didn't know where our next meal was coming from, but we were grinding each and every day. And they look back on those as the best times of their lives. So at least that's what I tell my wife anyway. So we're in that stage where we're in the garage and we're building this thing from the ground up. And hopefully one day we'll look back on it as the best times of our lives. But we'll
Yeah, I heard you say success also, in the beginning of what you were talking about, and saying, hey, the constant refinement of what success means to us, it's a constant evolution for me too. And I was just saying this on another podcast that I was doing about what does success mean to us? How are we defining that for ourselves in our own lives, in our own journey? Because if we can't define it, then how are we reaching it? How are we setting goals to crush that? So I'm just curious what your definition of success is in this state in time, because I know mine's evolved.
Right. Yeah. So it's a weird thing to define. So right now, for me, success is knowing that I'm doing everything I possibly can to make this venture a success, and also make sure that I'm present with my family when I am physically here. So both those two things. So if I let an opportunity go by on the business front, maybe it's not the end of the world. But and maybe that has to give to do some of the family stuff. So there is a little bit of give and take there. But for me, at this stage, success is knowing that I'm giving everything my all, both on the home front and on the business side of the house. I'm not sitting back. I'm not resting on my laurels. I'm continuing to improve going forward, both on the writing front and with my family as a husband and a father. So those things are what is how I currently define success. And I don't know how that'll evolve over time, but when I look back and see how my kids turn out and see if they are productive citizens, good people, compassionate, loving humans, then will be the long-term success for all of this. Now right now that's just easy to say, and then I could go sit and do nothing. So success now is getting after it on all fronts.
That's awesome. No, that's exactly, that's the balance I keep saying every day. I've defined success at this point as strengthening my worst case scenario. So at the end of the day, if it all went away and I couldn't take anything with me, who's going to be there in that worst case scenario? To me, that's a constant investment into my kids, my wife, my friends, my brothers, my dad. So like, it's all that time that you get, and then trying to kind of take everybody and invest into everybody in a way that they see the vision aligning with the family. Essentially that output, that message, that changing the world. It's so important. And that's really cool to hear, because I'm sure I'm going to have more questions for you. I'm sure we're going to talk about it again, because you've continued to inspire me about what you've learned as well.
Well, much appreciated. Let me do something here on my computer here. Sorry.
No worries.
I didn't do that. Well, I can edit, I guess. Okay, awesome.
Right.
Yeah, so the success is, it's an interesting thing to obviously think about, because we all want to be successful in all facets of our life. And, what does that, what does that look like for our family then, and our kids also? Like, what's their perspective look like? They don't care really about what happens on the business front. They don't know that I need to run off and do this book signing because it's, it's 100 books and whatever else, and I get good content from it, or whatever it is. They just know that I missed a soccer game. So it's crazy to juggle all that stuff, but we're not the first ones to ever have to juggle all these different things. And at the end of the day, it's just knowing that you did the best you could at all of these. You didn't rest. You tried to continually improve. So that's really what I think about as I move through the day and I get to the end of the day. Hey, did I maximize my opportunities today? And was I a good person? Was I there for my family? Was I there for my wife? Was I there for my kids? And then there's the other things along the way too. People talk about, well, set goals. No, don't set goals. Like all sorts of books written about all these different things. Well, and you know this because you know me. So with our middle child having severe special needs and needing a lifetime of full-time care, well, one of my goals and one of the things that I will measure success by is whether I can get his special needs trust, fully funded, so that if I walk outside and get hit by a bus, I know that he's taken care of for life, for a lifetime of full-time care, and that burden will not fall on my wife's shoulders, and it won't fall on his brother and sister's shoulders. So that's a big one for me. So I think everybody has something like that, little touch points along the way where they can hit those goals and be like, okay, whew, did that, wow. I thought I'd sleep easier. Maybe I'm not. Well, at least I hit that. At least I know in my case that if I get hit by that bus, that he's taken care of. So there's things like that also that play in.
So you brought up, your family, and that is, I've always known in the teams, heard about you, talked to you a little bit, but really coming together through some of the things that you were thinking about as you were looking at transitioning. And you talked about having a special needs son. And I can't tell you how much you know this already, but just for everybody listening, how much of an inspiration he has been to me and so many guys that are warriors and that are guardians out there that have really come together in a very, very, very meaningful and special way. So I want to just talk about that. And if you could elaborate a little bit more on some of the things that you were dealing with. And I always talk about the will to fight story. So whether this is it for you or not, I think that this is something that fires me up and continues to give me motivation every day. And I just wanted to elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of guys have a hard time leaving the military because they don't know that next purpose in life. They haven't found that next mission. And in my case, in my family's case, I was kind of handed to us. So we didn't have to search very far to find that next mission, and that next mission being taking care of our middle child. So he was born with a mutation of the NR2F1 gene, and we didn't even know what that was. We didn't have a diagnosis until I think 7 years old. So it was really, and that's during the time that I was bouncing around doing deployments and workups, going out to Nyland, going all over the place, doing all the things we have to do to get ready to go downrange. And so my wife took all of that essentially, and she dealt with all of that while I was in that stage of my time in the teams. But eventually, someone told our story to Ross Perot, and then I got a call out of the blue from Ross Perot, who sounded suspiciously like Dana Carvey impersonating Ross Perot on Saturday Night Live in the 90s. And anyway, we talked and found out how he found out about us. And he said, I'm sending the jet tomorrow to pick you guys up and fly you out to Texas. And he says, we're going to fix your son, he says. And then he hangs up. And I'm like, wow, what just happened? That was crazy. And got a call from his doctor about an hour later, his head physician, who said, I know Mr. Perot just called you and said they're sending the jet tomorrow. We won't send it tomorrow. We'll send it in about a month. And in the meantime, send us all you have on your son. And we'll put a team of specialists together here at Southwestern Medical Center, just outside of Dallas, and we'll see what we can do. And I said, wow, thank you. So sure enough, they sent the G550 out to us in San Diego with a nurse on board and flew us to Texas. And they had a team of doctors there ready to go. And we spent a week there trying to figure out what was going on. And they took blood from all of us and sent it all over the world, and found a researcher in the Netherlands that had just found this specific genetic mutation. So our son was number 13 that they'd ever found with this. There's probably about 100 now, I would guess. But and a lot of people just didn't know Ross Perot in order to get this diagnosis. So he was number 13, and being able to put a name to it really helped. So in moving forward, that was our mission. Make sure he's taken care of each and every day while we're here, and that after we're gone, he continues to get that same level of care, and that burden doesn't fall to the rest of the family. So we were handed that. A lot of people aren't handed that next mission, and they have to search for it and find that next purpose and find that mission. So for us, I guess, whether it's lucky or unlucky, it's neither. It's just what it is, right? And you play the hands you're dealt as best you can. And I look at it as, he's a sweet little guy, and hopefully it makes us all more loving, compassionate people. And as you know, and as he'll never know, is that he's brought a bunch of people together that never would have met if it hadn't been for him. And getting us together out there with these people that we've connected with over the last 5-6 years. That's his gift to us.
Yeah, and it's an incredible journey that everybody's been on. I mean, I can't even tell you, like always say, it's been immeasurable. Just the event that we put together in honor of him and just everything. He was the focal point in understanding these guys coming together. And really what's come out of it now is kind of uh, what will come out of it for the future, and what has come out of it has been amazing. And there's guys literally wearing the wristband, being like, I think of this guy every day. And
Yeah.
you think of somebody in his condition and his state and where you guys are, but he's changing the world every single day. Through guys' actions and accomplishing so many good things. So it's pretty incredible. What you
Yeah.
can turn
No,
into
absolutely. I mean,
a great
businesses
thing.
have started because of him. Other foundations have started because of him. Friendships have started because of him. So it's, and he'll never know because he needs this, this lifetime of full-time care. And it's, yeah. So, but he's, brought people together that never would have met otherwise. And the positive that has come out of him bringing those people together is essentially immeasurable.
So with him and your family, what other challenges have you kind of seen getting out of the military through that transition, and now, running as a new business owner, writing several books, getting out there, being all over media? What challenges is your family dealing with as far as you and that transition?
Yeah, so much like you and those of us that are programmed to excel in special operations, we're all in. Whatever we go and we go all in. We don't just dabble. We don't just like see. I want to test this out and see how it works. No, we dive right in. And I think for people that aren't kind of programmed that way, that can be difficult to understand. But so I think that's a challenge, realizing that, hey, I'm not taking guys downrange anymore, and guys' lives are not in my hands right now. And if I miss this interview, or if I say no to this event, or if I don't go to this dinner, or whatever it is, no one. The result of that is not someone coming home in a box. And being able to take that breath and realize that, hey, there is a difference between getting a team ready to go downrange, taking them to Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever else, and doing a job back here. So just realizing that, and then and taking a breath and realizing that, hey, it's okay that the pendulum swings back towards the family, or towards towards not being all in on this project right now. I can take a breath, because if I do, it's okay. So for me, that's finding figuring that piece out has been the toughest challenge, I would say.
Yeah, the biggest thing is I still sometimes act like I'm risking, like I'm still in, but the only one that weighs on is my family. So I'm like, okay, so just what you said, it's a learning curve and understanding when to do and when not to do. So I appreciate that very much, because it's a reality of figuring that out and knowing the balance.
Yep, no, that's the toughest piece, I think, for me anyway. So as I move forward, I try to keep that in mind, but at the same time, even if I take that breath and I move, whatever, go into the other room, and I'm with my family. In my mind, I'm still solving those problems in my head, like I'm on the battlefield or something. Like it's solving those. It's I can't get it out of my head. Like I'm thinking about whether it's just a page or a problem on the written page. Like, how's he going to get out of this scenario, or how is this going to make sense to the reader, or what, or it's one of the business things that are going on, one of those opportunities that's out there. It's still in the back of my head, and I try to say, okay, it's okay. You can leave. I don't need to think about you right now. But for me, it's hard not to. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's because it's programming on a different mindset for so long, and it's still today. I'm just adapting that to take advantage of it, to be the best that I can be for my family and my business. But it's really cool. Uh, I wanted to talk about, because this is always important to me. I always ask this question about honor. What does honor mean to you, and how does it play a part in your life?
Yeah. So I guess it's just a part of me and of you, and of I guess of everybody. It's in one way, shape, or form. But for me, it's being able to provide for, protect my family, being a good example for my kids as I raise them to be good, productive citizens, compassionate people, loving people, and following through with those commitments. So the easy button on that one is doing what you say you're going to do. But it's also doing what you say you're going to do in a way that's a good example for your kids and your family. I think that kind of flows through everything that we do when it comes to honor. But at its base level, it's that foundation. It's the foundation of everything that we do. Honor, character, and of course, honor or character and reputation are different things. And if you you take care of your character, your reputation will see to itself. So you don't really need to think about that. And that actually comes into play with how we present ourselves in this era of social media. It would be very difficult to pretend to be something that you're not on these platforms. You would be exhausting. I don't know how one could do it. But if you just present yourself as who you are, that people can infer things about your character, and your reputation will see to itself. So instead of reputation, I don't know, management, you might call it, or something like that. And you don't need to do that at all. If you see your character, reputation will take care of itself. So honor is the foundation from which everything else springs.
Awesome. That's really awesome. And, we talk about the character building. You talk about people putting stuff out on social media. Mostly what I see is people living two lives. Social media is a perception creator, where the best pieces get put out on the internet, where it's like, I want you to see this slice. I want you to see this slice. I don't want you to see me, in the kitchen having an argument with my wife, or,
that never happens. What?
Yeah. Or yelling at my kids, or, having a, screwing my workout up, or, doing a run in the shoot house where I went the wrong way. And you know what I mean? Like,
oh, sure.
At the end of the day, people do create this perception, and we're living where we think we see everybody's best life, So it's kind of this interesting idea of, who are we really, and is the culture changing where, people aren't able to express themselves or communicate they say we're more connected than we've ever been, but yet we're disconnected personally than more we've ever been.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. So I talk to my kids about it in terms of, and I certainly look at it as, the social media platforms. I'm taking snapshots, each and every day, and putting something up each and every day. A lot of the times it's not me. I'm talking about an event or giving a little historical perspective on something or whatever it might be. But if it is a picture of, thank you. Well, if it is a picture, if it is, me, it's a snapshot. And that's okay, as long as people realize it's a snapshot. I talk to my kids about this, particularly my daughter's at that age where she's Snapchatting and doing that sort of thing. And I say, even if it's not a business per se that someone has on, let's say, Instagram or whatever, it's still an advertisement for them, their family, their lifestyle. It's a snapshot of what they want you to see. They're advertising something to you, and look at it like that. So don't look at these things and say, oh, look at so-and-so in the Bahamas, and they look like they're having such a great time. That was less than a second of their life. And you are now looking at that, and for the next 24 hours, 48 hours, until you see their next family post from great trip to the Bahamas on our way home. Everybody's smiling. There's a lot that happens in between in those 23 hours and, 50 whatever minutes. So it's an advertisement. And I think kids need to realize that, hey, even if you're not following a company, you're following a person, a friend, it's still an advertisement, and look at it that way. So I try to articulate that to them, and hopefully they don't, because you can get pretty depressed looking at other people's things while you're sitting in your cubicle, wanting to do the things that you're looking at other people doing online. So I think as long as you can look at it that way and realize that this is just an advertisement, just like you would have gotten 30 years ago sitting on the couch between whatever during the football game, it's the same thing. It's an ad.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy how far we've come, with understanding that most people don't have the father like you in their house to be able to explain that to them. So perception is reality to them, and they're seeing all these things. And even I have to fight it. I mean, this is me admitting, when I start scrolling through Instagram or any type of feed, it's very easy to almost find yourself in a state of paralysis. Like, whoa, so many people have so much momentum in all these different directions. And it gives you that anxious feeling like, well, I'm not doing enough. I don't have enough going on, or I got to move in this direction, or, oh, that's a good idea. And it's super distracting. But at the same time, understanding to use it and find that inspiration. That's why I think who you follow and why you follow them is so freaking important.
Oh, absolutely. And, you cause that as well. Like this morning, seeing you working out, I'm like, oh man, look at Dom working out, hitting that thing. I'm not in the gym. So, yeah, we can cause that, as well. But, I hopefully being open and honest about what that is, and people can look at it as inspiration. So when I see you, and what I hope that everyone that follows you sees is that inspiration. Hey, look at this guy, leaves the military first, at the highest level of special operations that you can ever operate at, leaves the military, starts his own business, and still gets up every morning and crushes it in the gym, and then moves on through the rest of his day. Like, hey, I can do that too. He can do it. I can do it. And that's kind of what I thought of going through buds. Doing those swims, whatever. Hell, lying in that surf zone in Hell Week, I would think, hey, somebody did this. Someone else has done this. I can do it too. And then when it got really bad, I'd think, you know what? This is not bad. I'd put things in perspective, and I think I'm not storming the beaches at Normandy or Iwo Jima. And those guys that did that and then got mowed down by machine guns that had elevated positions on them. I'm on the beach in sunny Southern California, and yeah, it's dark right now. It's a little cold. I'm getting yelled at by some big gigantic guy in a blue T-shirt that says UDT SEAL instructor on it. But you know what? That's not that bad. And I thought about everybody that sacrificed their lives, their sacred honor from the inception of this country up until today, that they gave me the opportunity to be on that beach, doing those push-ups, doing those sit-ups, doing those swims, those runs, those obstacle courses, having that boat on my head. And that really helped put it in perspective for me. And that's why that belt was never an option.
100%, bro. That fires me up. Perspective, having that perspective each and every day, knowing that, what foundation has been laid for us, people that have suffered and sacrificed, is like each and every day keeps me so fired up, man. So just getting me going now. And, I hear you talk about the things that inspire you. So two things. Are there any, I know the verbiage is good. Words is good. The things we tell ourselves. Is there any quotes or anything that you use a lot throughout your day or throughout your week that you're like, you reference or go back to, like this keeps you grounded? Is there any quotes specifically that you use?
Yeah, and I don't use it because it's such a part of me, I guess. And I've thought about it so much over the years that it's not something I have to go to or put on the wall or post on my Instagram page. Although I do talk about it quite a bit when I'm asked. And it comes from the book Once an Eagle by Anton Meyer, which was written in 1968, and it's my most gifted book. And in the SEAL teams, I give it to my junior officers, senior enlisted, or anybody that I thought would be interested and might take the time to read it. And what it is it's a historical fiction, and it follows two guys from before World War I up to Vietnam. And one of them is an enlisted guy who gets a battlefield commission in World War I. And the other guy is the staff officer who's just a little bit ahead of the enlisted guy who gets the battlefield commission. And it kind of juxtaposes their careers. And essentially it's a case study in leadership through the medium of historical fiction. And you learn a lot about history as you go too. You learn a lot about World War I, a lot about World War II, the interwar years. And there's a quote in there where the protagonist, his name is Sam Damon, and he's talking to his son. And he says, "Son, you can't help what you were born, and you might not have much to say about where you die, but you can and you should live the days in between as a good man." And for me, I think that really sums up
That's awesome.
character.
I love that. I've never heard that before. I've never heard you say that before.
Really interesting.
Yeah, I
gotta gift you this book. And what I would do in the teams is I'd write a letter, and that would go in the front part of the book. And as soon as I gave it to someone, they could open that letter and read it. And it would give, it would say a few things in there. But one of the things it said was that there's a letter in the back of this book. And that one was in an envelope that was sealed. And to get to that letter, they had to work their way and read this entire book. And it's pretty serious. Like it's actually right here. So you can use it also as a doorstop or as a weapon. You can see how thick that is.
I like
you
it.
can use it as an impact weapon.
That's cool.
At the same time. But at the end of that book, I had another letter, and they had to read it to get to that letter. And
That's cool.
in that one, it would be my perspective
cool.
on what they just wrote or just read, because I didn't want to kind of poison their experience with my interpretation of what they just read ahead of time. So that's my most gifted book.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. Can I see the cover of that real quick again?
Yeah. Once an Eagle. And so,
Nice.
So it's also on my reading list on the website. It's the first, I started a reading list because people have been asking me since the first novel came out, "Hey, could you post a reading list, please?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's on my list of things to do. It's on my list of things to do." And so I started it, but I decided to do it a different way. Instead of just having my list and posting it and maybe make links to the books or whatever. I decided to do 6 a month. And October was the first time that I did my first 6. This was the first one. And I talk about those books, those first 6, as why they're important to me, what stage of my life I read them, and what impact they had on me. So there's a little bit of a personal connection to each one of these. And as I was getting ready to leave the SEAL teams, the Naval Special Warfare Center asked me to put together a professional reading list. And so I did that. And I broke it into sections. And I talked in each section, I had a header that said why reading these types of books is important. And I gave that to the NSW. I have no idea if they actually used it or not, but some of the books on the list, some of the 6 that comes out each month will be from that list, and others will be just things that I read growing up that weren't on that list because they're fiction, or they were something I read earlier on, or whatever. But so that is out, and the Once an Eagle is the first one on that list.
That's so cool, man. Honestly, I've told you this before personally, but you've inspired me more with like the reading, writing more than anybody in my life. And I think it's awesome, man. It's super cool. The more I see about what you've done, both in history now and what you're up to, is really friggin' inspiring, man. So that's awesome. I'm gonna have to check those reading lists out, and I'll have to check that book out as well.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't know whether to break it down into like lists of, okay, here's the books like on writing that I liked, here's the ones on military history that I liked, here's the ones on terrorism, here's the fiction that I liked. So I decided to mix it up. So each one, like the first list has Once an Eagle on there. It has Warfighting, Marine Corps manual. It's very, very thin. It's like a base level, just tactics 101 essentially, and is great for people that are writing about tactics that have no military background at all, and for people that are going into the military. They're going to be leading people in combat soon, so it's such a quick read. But so Warfighting's on there, and what else did I put on there? Term Limits, one of my favorite fictional novels by Vince Flynn, who sadly passed away a few years ago, but gave us the character Mitch Rapp. That's on there. So the first 6 are out there, and I got to get on the second iteration here for November pretty soon.
That's cool. So it's like you're not only an author, but you're an avid reader, and all the things that you've researched. And I think it just goes hand in hand with how well you're doing and how well that stuff's coming across. Honestly, one of my favorite things to do is to find people that like the Tom Clancy, Brad Thor type of books and don't know about you yet. That's like one of the things that I love. I was like, all right, well, you got to check out Jack Carr. And like, all right, who's this Jack Carr guy? It doesn't make any sense. I haven't heard of him. And then you start looking into it, like, this is awesome. Nice. So I love that. I love that reaction. Yes. My brother-in-law, CJ, I turned him on to you, and he's like, all right, I got to pre-order everything. He's like, I want everything right now. So he loves what you're doing, man. And awesome. It's really cool. It's really cool to see the evolution.
Awesome.
Okay. We talked about quotes. What about people? Who inspires you in today's day and age? Who do you have around you that you look up to as leaders? I know for me, as a small business owner, a veteran, and so many different things, sometimes it can be difficult. So I want to hear from you who you look up to.
Yeah. So I guess, I have these bookshelves you can see behind me right here. That's, those are full of essentially mentors to me.
Pretty epic.
And those aren't, some of those go three deep. They're thick shelves. So at some point we're going to need to get another house just so I can have a library where I can fit all these things. And a lot of them are in boxes that are in storage and under the house and all that sort of thing. So essentially, these have been my mentors, whether I was growing up reading this sort of thing. My mom was a librarian, so I grew up with a love of reading. When I discovered the type of book that I would eventually write one day, I knew that was going to be what I did after the SEAL teams. So I think in 5th grade, Hunt for Red October came out, and I started reading essentially what my parents were reading fairly early on, just because we were so because of my mom's background as a librarian. So those early professors in the art of storytelling really gave me the foundation. They gave me a love of reading and a love of this genre, the thriller genre. And really it's interesting because I didn't just decide to be an author like near the time I was getting out of the SEAL teams and go back and say, oh, what should I read? Maybe this guy and this guy. No, I read this stuff from an early age, and I have these great memories of reading these guys, reading Tom Clancy, reading David Morrell, Nelson DeMille, J.C. Pollock, A.J. Quinnell, Mark Olden, these guys in the 80s who had protagonists with backgrounds that I wanted to have one day. So typically in the 80s, early 90s, everybody's background was either as a special forces guy, a SEAL, CIA guy in Vietnam. They had that Vietnam experience. Yep. And that's what I wanted to do one day. I wanted to have that kind of a background. So I loved reading these novels, because back then, no internet, you couldn't just type in Navy SEAL and get an unending supply of information. You could go through the nonfiction Navy SEAL stuff and Special Forces stuff fairly quickly. Like in a few hours, you could read everything in 1983 that was ever written on special operations very quickly. Today, you can't possibly read everything. There's no way. So now you have to pick and choose, and you have to choose wisely. But back then, you could. So I had this foundation essentially of mentors. But today, I would say that people that inspire me, that are my friends. And luckily, I have stumbled into quite a few very interesting and inspirational people over my life, I guess. And so those friends are really what inspire me. You are obviously on that list, and
Thanks, brother.
and you know many people that are on that list. So and of course, there are people that you don't know that you read a book about, like a Steve Jobs or somebody like that. But for me, it's the people that I have personal connections with, and that all care about one another. Like those are the people that inspire me today. And my family, the kids inspire me. My wife inspires me. Those are the people that I don't need much help to keep going. I wouldn't say, so that's the wrong word, but those are the people that inspire me to sprint as hard as I do. I guess that's the better way to put it.
That's awesome, man. It fires me up, man. And it's the truth, because it's real. It's right there. It's in front of you, and everybody, like you said, your family. When I look at my kids, my wife, I'm like, okay. I'm like, if it gets tough, it's because it's for that. My 1-year-old daughter, my 3-year-old boy, my 6-year-old daughter, my 9-year-old son, my wife. And that really does get me to push. I've learned more about my life and myself through my 9-year-old than anybody else. You
Nice.
test, patience and leadership, but it's awesome, man. And it is too. It's true. The brothers that I have in my life and the guys that have come along that have been there, that have proven themselves in leadership and setting the example by their actions is definitely something that I can relate to. So that's awesome, brother.
Yeah, and I know for you, a lot of the guys that didn't make it back are an inspiration, and they are to me as well. And then, like we talked about, I think to those people I didn't even know that gave me this opportunity and gave us the freedoms that we have in this country to succeed or fail, regardless, whatever, to learn from those failures, to keep moving forward. Those I think about those guys quite a bit, men and women that gave us these opportunities and gave us these freedoms. So it's not just the guys that I know personally that didn't make it back, but it's everybody from the inception of this country that gave us these freedoms we have today. And it's a responsibility to have these freedoms. And a lot of times when what I guess, for lack of a better term, disheartens me a little bit is how people can make snap decisions based on however many characters are in a tweet today, and make a decision that they then stick to because of who said it or who forwarded it or whatever, without doing the requisite study and putting the requisite thought. And they might come to that same conclusion after they do that study and they put in the thought, but at least they will have thought it through and not let someone else do their thinking, or even worse, someone else do their thinking for them, and just be on a bandwagon and not think of, oh, if we give up this right, why do I have this right in the first place? Let me go back and do some research on that, and then let me let that percolate, and then let me take a look at that through the lens of what's important to me and my family, what might be important to my kids and future generations moving forward, before I make a snap judgment on giving up this right. So that is a little bit disheartening, but I don't dwell on it. I just realize that that's how a lot of people make their decisions these days, and hopefully my kids will not be will not make their decisions in the same way.
That fires me up, though. I take that same attitude and it fires me up to do more. It fires me up to teach and to be able to take that and not take those for granted, because the wave of energy from the conception of this country and its start is so vast, and you can't even comprehend how much sacrifice has been put into each inch of freedom, each moment of freedom that we've been given. Like you said, people are allowed to be complacent now. They can literally turn on Netflix and veg out and not do anything, care about anything. and make those knee-jerk reactions or judgments based on those things without even putting in the work. And it's like what you just said was pure gold, because if we can get everybody to get on the page of being like, how much do you value the information that you're getting in now? Are you really putting it through a filter of what those rights are that you have today? How much do they really mean to you, and to value them more? So, all we can continue to do is our part, right? Raise our children as best as we possibly can and bring them into the country as good citizens and productive people, and be able to have that value to say, all right, if somebody's giving me something, I'm really going to assess it for what it is and not just knee-jerk react and take it for gospel.
Yep. No, exactly. And, we used to have your sphere of influence. Everyone's sphere of influence is different. In the SEAL teams, as a brand new guy, maybe it was the E5 Mafia, whatever, and then you move up and then it gets a little bigger. And then, maybe you're a team leader, or you go to, OCS, and you have 8 guys in your squad or whatever. So your sphere of influence gets larger and larger as you grow older, not just in military, but in any profession. And it used to be that your influence used to be transferred around the water cooler of a company. You'd go there and take a break. You'd have a coffee. Maybe it was a smoke break. Maybe it was a coffee break. Maybe it was just some water, whatever. And that's 3, 4, 5 people, whatever it was. Now today, that's not how information is. Well, it still is word of mouth, passed that way. But now word of mouth has grown exponentially with people's platforms on social media. So now, but you can, your sphere of influence is huge. People out there have these followers that every day see what you're doing, and look up to you, and you inspire people, and you can pass things word of mouth like that. Like, hey, before we make a judgment here, or just give this right away that generations before us died for, maybe we should take a breath and do a little thinking on it. Rather than just, oh yes, I read this tweet from so-and-so, and now I'm going to forward it on, and I'm going to tell my kids and my people, my sphere of influence, that we need to give up this right, or we need to do this or that, without putting in the thought. So for me, I think that's one of the biggest things as I continue to grow my readership and this foundation, is just to put in the requisite thought. And that's a responsibility I have to people that are following me, to put in that thought before I comment on something.
I love it. Another gold nugget. And I hope people take that to heart, because that should be something you reflect on when you follow people, when you look at people that you look up to. Are they putting that type of thought into something that you're consuming for your news or whatever the case may be? And that's why it's important for who I follow. I know you're going to do the work. I know the people I'm following are going to do the work. So that's another really valuable piece of information.
Yeah, I mean, we've inherited we have a responsibility through what we've inherited to do that, to put in that requisite thought. I guess that would be the one thing that I would hope people do in this day and age, where we have so much information coming at us from so many different directions, from the second we wake up till right when we go to bed, is to take a breath and think things through.
Awesome. So I know how much adversity you've been through. I know that, life isn't easy. There's challenges along the way. How much has faith played a part in your upbringing, to your career, to where you are today?
Yeah. So that's another thing that I want to get better at doing. I grew up, going to church with my family, going to Sunday school. I still, those in high school, we read the Bible cover to cover. And we didn't read it really as a religious text. We read it as a historical document. And so being able to kind of overlay reading it as a historical document with the stories that I had grown up with in Sunday school, I think that it was so valuable to me. And it's such an important part of our culture and heritage. And it's one thing where we've stumbled, I think, as a family, is not doing that. We when we first found out what was going on with our middle child, we went to church, but then we just couldn't bring him anymore. So we didn't, because it was just too hard to have him physically there. And so we stayed at home and we took care of him, and so did the other kids. So I think that's one thing where we've kind of stumbled a bit with our kids. We did send them to an Episcopalian school. I was hoping that, okay, school will do it, because it was too much going on here, especially with what we have going on with our middle one. So I think they got a little bit of it there, but not the way I got at it growing up. And for for whatever reason, self-reliance was always something that that was important to me. And you know, of course, there's that, they're saying there's no agnostics in foxholes like that, atheists in foxholes. Yeah. So when things were getting tough there, with our middle child, as we were getting out of the military, and just all the things that goes along with taking care of him and raising two other kids, so that their childhoods aren't solely defined by their brother's condition, but it's always a part of them and us as we move forward, and hopefully in a way that makes us more loving, compassionate people. But I'll fall back on that. Hey, God does not give you anything you can't handle. And so I always fell back on that. And I told my wife that as well, whose name happens to be Faith.
I love it, brother. That's so awesome. And in times of adversity, that fallback and that trust is everything sometimes. So that's really cool to hear. One of the things that most excite me about your journey that I think separates you from everybody else since you started, in both with your experience and where you are today, is the fact that you love gear so much and how much it's integrated into your books and your writing and your life. I mean, if I can say one thing, look, I'm not an author. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm an expert on all these guys that write books, but I've read a few, and that is the stark contrast between everybody else that I can confidently say, I love gear, I build gear. So that's something that has definitely set you apart in your skills and what you're doing today. So how much thought did you put into that before you started writing? And also, how much of an integration is it for your daily activities and adventures and outdoorsman activities?
Yeah, well, you hit it. Yeah, I've been a gear guy since I was born. And, you talk to my parents about it. Yeah, I was always, going after the newest and greatest gear that was going to allow me to go, deeper into the backcountry as a kid. Oh, there's a new people out there. I'm going to definitely date myself, but the Nike Son of Lava Dome shoe that first came out. It was like the first, like there's just growing up, I always wanted that. There's a faster ski out there. Oh, there's a new one. It'll going to give me that extra like quarter second, maybe because it's a little bit longer, it's a little lighter, whatever it was. Didn't matter. I was always into that, the newest, the greatest gear that was going to allow me to go further, faster, stronger, whatever it may be. But so in the novels, it is a very natural thing for me to do, is just to incorporate that. It's not like I have to work at it. It's I don't have to Google,
Cool.
What knife should somebody use? Let me see.
Yeah.
And go type away and put knife for Navy SEAL and see what pops up and be like, oh, that one looks cool. Okay, I'll put that one in the book. Like, no, like I know the people that make the knives that are in the book. I know the people that make the gear that's in the book. And that's because once I got to the teams as a gear guy, as you know, you can even more fully explore that path. And just naturally over time, you develop relationships with people that make this stuff, and they become dear friends. And then you can collaborate on things or give your input on things. How did this work downrange? How did this work in training? How can I improve it just a little bit? And so very easy for me, very natural for me to incorporate that stuff into the book. It's not something that I have to work at, because it's just a part of me. It was before the Navy. It was while I was in the military, and it continues to be after the military. As I go into the backcountry, take the kids hunting, go backcountry skiing, trail running, whatever it is, overlanding, whatever it is. Like it is very natural for me to talk about gear with people, and to have relationships with people that make the gear that I use.
Yeah, it's so awesome. That's honestly my favorite part of the book, because the way you talk about it, I'm like, yes. And if you guys haven't heard of Jack Carr before, make sure that when you start reading his books and you go find the terminal list, that you find the part that the Dynamis Razorback was used and the half-face blades. I'm just saying, really good parts of the book.
Oh yeah, no, those are the people's favorite chapter. And so I was a little nervous when I first got to New York and met everybody at Simon and Schuster, who's predominantly female, and I would say predominantly a little left of center. And I was like, and when I was writing this one chapter that was particularly violent, where your blade is used, I was a little worried how that was going to play. And my editor, my publisher, Emily Bessler at Simon and Schuster, Emily Bessler Books, which is an imprint, she loved that chapter. And then I got to New York, and they were doing this little get together thing in the building, and I see this one lady looking at me. And she's across the room and she's looking and kind of turning her head back. And I'm like, gosh, I know she wants to say something. I wonder what it is. Oh, is it about the guns? Is it about the knives? Is it about the violence? Is it about, I don't know what it's about. And then she made her way over and she said, I just have to tell you, that chapter where that lawyer got his guts torn out, like, that was my favorite. And I was like, yes, awesome.
Yes,
Because I
that
thought
is
it was
so
going to be the
cool.
exact opposite.
Oh man,
But
what a
yeah, everybody there
surprise.
has been absolutely amazing, and it's so
That's
cool to
awesome, man.
incorporate gear from and weapons from guys that you know into the novels, because it's stuff that I carry on a daily basis, and it's stuff that I use, stuff that I love, and so it's not like I'm trying to put something in there for the I guess the commercial value of it. It's like, hey, this guy makes an awesome blade, and he's a dear friend. It's going in the book. Like, it's not even a question. You know, if somebody reached out with a horrible product at some point and said, hey, will you put this knife in the book? We'll pay you X. No, because that's you know, this whole thing is based on trust, just like leadership in the teams, leadership in your family. Everything is based on trust with the guys above and below you in that chain of command. So same thing here. People can trust that what I talk about, it's authentic, it's real, it's what I use, and I'm going to give them my honest assessment of it. So people being able to rely on that is pretty powerful, I think.
Yeah, so that just brings up another point. If you guys are listening, I mean, any gear that Jack talks about in any of his books, it's vetted. He's used it, so it's no frill. It's literally the best stuff on the market that he's has experience with. So it's not like any other book you're going to read and get that experience. So it's super cool, man. I love that. And the one thing I want to ask you, is there anything as of recently that's like super game changing, 1-2 pieces of gear that you've seen lately that maybe I might not know about?
Oh man. So now that I'm going into, well, environments that I need some power. So I'm always looking for something to charge things now in this new day and age. Got to charge that phone, got to charge that computer.
Yep.
I was just up in Alaska for almost 2 weeks, and in Southeast Alaska, beautiful up there. It's kind of like a Kodiak type landscape where we
With
were.
Frank
But yeah, exactly.
hanging
Had a
out with the
great,
man.
yep, exactly. Had a
Awesome.
great trip. But I wasn't sure I was going to power up there, and if I was going to be able to charge my computer, because I wanted to write while I was up there, take some notes, do some research for a future novel. And I'd had some of these power packs before that I've been testing out. One, like, I brought it on a trip to Russia in August, and I went to go plug my phone in, and the whole thing just like came apart in my hands. So that one didn't work very well. But I tested a new one from Uncharted Supply Company. It's like a brick, and instead of and it doesn't charge computers yet. So they were trying to track down a prototype for me that would charge a computer, but it charges your phone. It has a light on it, and you can jumpstart your car with it. And I just
Really?
moved it into a closet because we have people coming over, but I'm going to carry it in my backpack from now on. It's like the size of a brick, and it has this little attachment. It comes in this little zip thing, and it has these 2 little alligator clip deals that plug into it. And you can
No
jumpstart your car.
way.
You can jumpstart a diesel with it. So not only can you charge your phone, but you can jumpstart your car with it as well. So it's going to be one of those pieces of gear that's going to be in my new post-military life. That's
That's
going to
cool.
be important. So it's going to be in my backpack along with the tourniquet and those things, those daily essentials.
Right on, man. I'll have to check that out. So, I heard you talk about reading. I heard you talk about your mother being a librarian, which is pretty interesting. I didn't know that about you, actually. So that's pretty cool that you have that much experience. From a reading standpoint, what tips do you have for somebody that's looking to get into either writing, more reading? What's some of the main things that you've learned that you could add extreme value right away to somebody that's kind of wanting to dive into it more?
Yeah, is to just do it. Is just to quit thinking about it, to sit down and write, or sit down and read. And I'll hit the writing one first. A lot of people ask me, hey, what do you recommend as far as reading for people that are going to wants to get into writing or get published? And everybody's is going to be a little bit different. There's going to be a point where it becomes not efficient to continue to read and study about how to do something, because you should be out there actually doing it. And another thing I talk about a lot is never paying attention to the odds. Like, if I paid attention to the odds, well, look, when I came into the SEAL teams, right? So 80% attrition. Okay, good. I'm going to be in that 20%. At the time, I thought the Navy, a team was like 8 dudes, so if you actually sat down to do the math and you knew how many teams were on the East Coast at the time, 3 and 3, and an SDV thing, maybe 2 of those, one each coast, whatever. But if you did that math in your head, like 8, 8, 8, 8, 200 some people in my class, 80% attrition. Like if you did that math, like it wouldn't pencil out, I guess is how you'd say it. But I was just like, oh yeah, I'll be one of those 8 guys on that team, and I'll be one of these the 20% to make it through. And that's all the thought that I gave to those odds. Same thing with publishing. The odds of getting people ask me, do you know the odds of getting published by Simon and Schuster? And I say, no, I have no idea, because I never paid attention to them. I just knew that I was going to write a novel. I was going to send it to Simon & Schuster, and then they were going to publish it. It was going to get optioned by an A-list Hollywood star, and then I'd have a multiple book deal, and that was going to be my next chapter. So that's all the thought I gave to it. Because I think you can stagnate, and if you think too much about those odds, like, oh man, the odds of getting published, or the odds of making it through SEAL team, SEAL training, oh, that's not really good odds. Like you can spend a lot of time thinking about it. You know, you should be doing pull-ups. You should be running. You should be preparing to get through buds and get to your SEAL team and knock it out of the park. Same thing with writing. Instead of like, oh, how hard is it to get published? I don't know anybody in publishing, or do I have to get an agent? How do you do that? No, sit down and write your book. That's what you need to do first. Get that done. Make it as good as you can possibly get it, because you're going to have to do that anyway, regardless of all the other stuff. So I think you can stagnate. I did read a couple books. I read the Stephen Pressfield, as you know, The Warrior Ethos, which is amazing. And he also has some other books on creativity in general. One's called The War of Art. The other one's called The Authentic Swing, Turning Pro, Do the Work. These are all very thin books, just like The Warrior Ethos. And he talks about creativity in general. And he talks about sitting down and doing it, doing the job. Don't get distracted. Focus on what you want to do. Sit down and write, or sit down and sculpt, sit down and paint, whatever it is.
Yeah, I love Stephen Pressfield.
So yeah, he's amazing. I read Stephen King's On Writing. I read David Morrell's The Successful Novelist. I think 1 or 2 others. But for me, it was like, okay, done with that part, time to write. So I let those books essentially work as inspiration for me rather than a how-to guide. They were just, oh, this was their journey. Oh, that's amazing. How Stephen King lived in this trailer and was selling things for like $10, and, just an amazing journey. Same thing with Stephen Pressfield. Like I love them talking about their writing journey or their life journey. I think there are lessons in there. So I didn't read anything as a how-to type book. And then at that certain point, when I read enough of those things, then I just sat down. They were still on my desk. They're right there. So I had the Stephen Pressfield, I had On Writing, I had Successful Novelist. They were right there next to my computer, but I never cracked them again. So I've only read those once. And, but I was like drawing the inspiration from them as I wrote. So I think it's different for everybody in that respect. So my advice to people that are wanting to either get into the SEAL teams or start writing or whatever it may be is to quit thinking about it and do it. It's that simple, really.
Can you say that quote one more time that you said about the odds?
Yeah, never tell me the odds. Never pay attention to the odds.
Never pay attention to the odds.
Yep, I think I got that from Han Solo right before he flew into an asteroid field in the second Star Wars movie when I was in like 3rd grade. But kind of like my life's mantra is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, never tell me the odds, or don't pay attention to them. If you know them, well, hey, don't pay attention to them. Just get out there and get after what you want to do.
Yeah, no, it's inspiring. It allows you to only focus on what's the positive outcome is going to be, and it just doesn't get you distracted with what the noise could be. I mean, that's such a powerful thing to be able to do. So I love that. I love that.
When you're going to get knocked down, like you have to go into it knowing you're going to get hit in the face, knowing you're going to get knocked down. Don't expect not to. You got to go into this thing. It's combat. You're going in, and life, it's a fight. You're moving forward. And when you get knocked down, you get up and you keep moving forward. That's what you do. That's what life is all about. That's the example to your kids, to your wife, your family, those around you, your sphere of influence. When you're knocked down, that's really what shows who you are, is how you deal with it after you get knocked down.
So what's next for James Reese? What's in the works for James Reese right now?
So I got this from Stephen Pressfield as well, is to have a theme. And the theme for the first novel was revenge without constraint. So I had a little yellow sticky that I had on my computer, this very one, and I wrote revenge on it. And anytime a sentence, a paragraph, a chapter didn't lead back either directly or indirectly to that theme of revenge, I edited it out right away. So I edited as I went. And if you read the how-to books, they typically say don't do that. They say wait to get it done, then go back and edit. But I edited along the way. the second one, it's a journey of redemption, violent redemption. So that's the theme there. Third one is Savage Sun, which comes out in April, is an exploration of the dark side of man, and I'm doing that through James Reese's journey. So there's always I think it's important to have a theme for these novels, and James Reese is on a journey just like we all are. And I think that's really why he's resonating with readers, is because it's not me interviewing somebody or thinking about how one would feel in these situations. It's me tapping into feelings and emotions that I had downrange that are associated with real world events. And I just take those emotions and I'm applying them to a completely fictional narrative. So if it reads like it's true, it's because the feelings associated with the fictional narrative are authentic, are real, are true. So he's on this journey. He's going to get knocked down on this journey, just like we all do in life. And I bet you can guess what happens when he gets knocked down. He's going to get up and keep moving forward. So that's what people can expect from him as I move forward. And I'll be exploring a bunch of different things that interest me and that I think will be interesting to readers as well as I continue down this path with James Reese.
So obviously it was a lot of fun to shoot that video with Ironclad.
Man.
That was a cool little series to do, man.
You knocked it out of the park. Thank you for doing that. I think it's all new stuff to me. So I was like, oh man, is Dom going to say yes to this? Do I even ask him? Like what? So yeah, I needed somebody for this. So first of all, of course, I wanted to have a video trailer that was better than any video trailer that's ever been done for any fictional thriller. And I think it did too. And it actually won an award for it. Won some gold medal at some advertising.
No way.
Nice. Yeah, pretty cool. But I needed somebody also that looked the part and that knew which end of the rifle the round came out of. So I really appreciate you stepping up and doing that. It was so awesome for you to do both the trailers for the first and second novel, and the feedback on those has been incredible. So
awesome. It was fun, sweet. Man. I mean, I didn't have to try too hard to get in the character. That's what I always say. It's just like I just showed up and just did what I do. So it was fun, man.
And people ask me all the time. I'll take these out here. They say, "Hey, is the guy on the cover? Is that Dom?" And I'm always offended. I'm like, "No, it's not Dom. Yeah. That's me. It's a little older photo, but you can tell the sun's there." So people ask me that all the time. If that's you in the second one, boom, back. Yep. There you are. So it's people ask me all the time, and even when I tell them it's not you, that it's some New York model off the streets, they're like, "Yeah, right." They don't believe me.
Yeah, so obviously it's interesting to see what people think, but it was fun to knock those out, man. Honestly, I was in character. It was really cool to be able to do that. And at the end of the day, what I want to make sure before we wrap is that people can find you. Where can guys find you on social, on website? Give people something they can direct you to so they know where to go.
Yeah. So the website is officialjackcarr.com. And there'll be new stuff popping up there every month. The reading list with 6 new additional titles each month. Try to keep that refreshed with new content. Go into some more details on the gear used in the books for the guys that are really gearheads, that sort of thing. So officialjackcarr.com. You can sign up for the newsletter there. I keep people informed on book tour stuff coming up. It's do a video usually with each one where I hold up new gear or things people have sent me to try out, what I thought of them, that sort of thing. So a video newsletter will be attached to those newsletters, so they can sign up for that on the website, officialjackcarr.com. And then on the social channels, I am Jack Carr USA, and I have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but 3 was too many. So Facebook, it is there. It does exist, but really it reposts from Instagram. So I don't personally engage on that one, but on Instagram and on Twitter, I engage with everyone. I try to get back to everybody that posts a comment, and hopefully provide something of value as I look at some of the past terrorist events that have influenced me, or things going on out there, gear that's coming out, gear that I'm using, whatever. So hopefully people get some value out of it. But that's Jack Carr USA. And if you reach out and I don't get back to you, it's just because somehow I missed it in all of these, everything that's going on. But I think I've gotten back to most everybody so far, and that's Twitter and Instagram are the main platforms that I correspond with people on.
Awesome. Jack, thank you so much for coming on today. Always an inspiration. Keep leading, and everything you're doing, man, is awesome. So keep it up. Guys, having Jack Carr on, appreciate it, brother. And we'll see you next time. I think there's probably going to be a part 2 to this because we've got so much to talk about. So keep getting after, bro. Change the world, and God bless.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. We'll talk soon.
All right, brother. Out.
See ya.